Public hearing is to approve $2,406,968 from ARP ESSER 2 funding related to COVID relief bills passed by Congress. ESSER 3, sorry. Funding related to COVID relief bills passed by Congress. Tim, for everyone's benefit, could you fill us in on the details, please?
Yeah, so last spring, our attorney recommended just to make sure we have all the bases covered on accepting federal money. We had 2 public hearings for ESSER 1 and ESSER 2. And now that we have ESSER 3, finally, it's our allocation all set. It was time to do ESSER 3. So this will cover us for all the ESSER spending that we've received.
And this is primarily the Mount Lebanon project?
Right. ESSER 3 has 80-20% breakdown, 80% for basically approved fraud. Everything has to be approved by the government, and 20% is specifically for learning loss recovery. So the 80% of that is going towards the Mount Leb, and 20% will have other uses.
Are there comments during this hearing from the public or from board members? About the $2 million, the public hearing on ESSER funds. But hearing none, the public hearing is closed. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance. Nation, under God. Okay, we have a couple adjustments to the agenda. Since we are anticipating that there may be more public comment this evening than we're used to, we're going to move that down just a couple items so that people here who are here to speak to us about the Lebanon High School trips, the international trips, and the trip to Florida have the opportunity to do that. They don't have to sit here for an extended period of time. We're also adding an item to the agenda. I'm going to call it item 8C. There's going to be discussion and action on COVID protocols.
Could we also add another discussion and action? Because in case I'm missing it, I don't see the discussion and action for the public hearing listed below to approve the funds. And don't we have to do that? Okay.
Right.
So 8D would be discussion and action to approve, and then the motion would just be whatever's read up on top.
So noted. So the new order will be, we've already done additions and deletions from the agenda. We'll do a quick report on correspondence. We'll then do the consent agenda, student report. And then under new business, we'll go right into new business. We'll have discussion and action on the Lebanon High School trips. Then we will do public comment at that point. And then after public comment, we will move on to discussion and action on COVID protocols, followed by discussion and action on approval of the ESSER funds we just had the public hearing on. Any objection from board members to these changes? Okay. We will have public comment. As I said, it's going to be regulated by policy BEDH. And as always, the meeting tonight is being broadcast in addition to CATV via Zoom. The Zoom connection is provided as a convenience. We can't guarantee its stability. Hopefully it will allow people who want to speak during public comment to do that and listen as long as they can. But if anybody has any difficulties, the CATV recording will be available within a day or two. Correspondence.
There were several letters regarding the use of masks in school, and there was a correspondence with question about the school budget.
And these are all available on in the correspondence folder on the SAU website for anyone to see. Moving on to the consent agenda. We need a motion to approve the board minutes from February 9th, 2022, the public board minutes, please.
I'll make a motion to approve the Lebanon School District regular meeting minutes from February 9th, 2022.
I'll second.
A motion by MJ, seconded by Lillian. Are there any corrections or questions about those minutes? MJ?
So it looks like it didn't get in that I made a final motion to adjourn. Lisa seconded, and we adjourned at 9:26 p.m.
Okay. Good. Yeah, that was important. Anything else? Okay, we'll have a vote. All in favor? 8 in favor, none opposed, 1 abstain. We need a motion now to approve the non-public minutes on the same date, please.
I'll make a motion to approve the non-public minutes from February 9th, 2022.
There a second?
I'll second.
Made by MJ, second by Lil. Pretty basic minutes. Any questions, corrections needed there? Okay, all in favor? 8, none opposed, 1 abstain. Continuing on, the board needs to acknowledge 2 resignations as outlined on the sheet included by the superintendent of the board packet. I have a motion to acknowledge this report.
I'll make a motion to acknowledge the resignations dated February 23rd, 2022.
Thank you.
I'll second.
By MJ, second by Lillian. Any questions or comments? Lil,
I just wanted to say, I wanted to express my personal gratitude to these 2 administrators for their many years of excellent service to our district, and they will be sorely missed by me and by many other community members, not including my, not, sorry, let me say that, they will be missed by me and many other community members, including my 2 sons at the middle school.
okay, all in favor? The motion to acknowledge the report. 9 in favor. Any opposed? None opposed. Student report. Miles.
Hi, my name is Miles Sturgis. I'm the moderator of LHS Council, and I have a bit of a shorter report for you this evening. Students are rejuvenated from February break and are excited for the LHS March Madness 3v3 basketball tournament that's coming up. In council, we're starting to work on elections for next year's representatives, starting to plan for Springfest, and after much discussion between council and LHS administration, LHS will have a homecoming dance next year for the first time in many years. And that will conclude my report tonight.
Questions for Miles? Glad to hear the homecoming dance is coming back. That's good. Very good.
Thank you.
Thanks, Miles. A new business discussion and action, Lebanon High School band chorus trip to Florida, February 2023. There's someone here to speak to that.
Hello, everyone. My name is Emma Cook. I'm the choir teacher. Unfortunately, Dom DeFrancisco, our band teacher, had a prior engagement tonight, so he can't be here, but I'm going to speak on behalf of both of us. You should all have our trip proposal that we wrote up for you, but I'll just give you the highlights. This trip will happen over February break of 2023. So it will be looking at the February 17th, which is a Friday, going into February 22nd, which I believe is the Tuesday. This trip is for educational purposes to allow students to work with workshops with people who come in who Disney actually brings in at these workshops. This trip also provides time in the Disney parks, as well as transportation, food, lodging, all of those things. The cost of this trip is around $1,800. This includes airfare, lodging, and food. So everything is included there. And then we are going to highly recommend, because of the just uncertainties of COVID, that students do get travel insurance, and that travel insurance will be an extra $200. They do not need to get this, and this is an additive cost, but that is something I did want to mention as well. The reason we really wanted to do this trip is because of a few things. One, I, myself, and Dom really think it's important to be giving these kids opportunities to travel, even if it may only be to Florida, but also to work with people who they wouldn't have an opportunity to work with. Also, it builds a really great community around the choir and band programs together. To have them travel together, work together in workshops, and have this experience, it can really build our programs, and that's something that we're advocating for and trying to strive for. And then I'm trying to think of the other things I would like to say. I guess I just have if you have any questions for me about this trip.
Thanks, Emma. Any questions? Let's see, for,
You can go.
I think, who was, Lil, you were first. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
I just have, how many people do you anticipate taking?
So we've anticipated around 45 students for this cost. If we get more students that are interested in the sign up, then the cost may shift a little bit. This cost is centered around the idea of one coach bus. If we get a larger amount of numbers, that includes another coach bus. And so that might alter the price slightly. With that 45 students, it is around the amount of students that we kind of assume will be able to afford this trip and also would want to go on this trip. But with costs, we do plan on doing fundraisers this year and the beginning of next year. And we are going to provide assistance to those students who may need that extra assistance, aside from the fundraising we're already going to do.
MJ, did you have a question?
Yeah, so I guess along those lines, is there a minimum number of students you need to sign up then for it to go off?
I would say if we get any less than 25, it's not necessarily a number. It's more of the amount of students we have in each ensemble. If Dom, if he gets all of his students in the band that sign up for this trip and he has enough of an ensemble, that will create the correct numbers to then perform, he may go. And then if I only get, say, 5 signups, I wouldn't feel it was beneficial to bring my choirs on such a big trip for only 5 students to have that, because there's not an ensemble to actually work with. So it wouldn't be an educational experience for them. Great.
Well,
Another follow-up question. How many chaperones would you have?
So we're hoping for a 1-to-8 ratio. So the amount of, I think it's going to be around a 6 to 7 chaperones. This will include myself and Mr. DeFrancisco. And we are also hoping for a nurse and an administrator, or especially just someone who is able to handle any occurrences that may happen that is not myself and Mr. DeFrancisco. So that is what those chaperones look like. Yeah.
And one other question, have you guys, I mean, before pandemic, and probably not Mr. DeFrancisco because he wasn't here, but have you guys run these trips before to Florida or to other places?
So neither of us have run a trip yet. I was a new teacher last year and he's a new teacher this year. So I'm not sure. I cannot.
You're asking about the band itself?
The band has gone, right?
The band went
We went to
to,
Florida a bunch of years ago. We went to Ireland, about 3 years ago.
yeah, most recently it was the trip to Ireland. We are planning to go for a small trip this year to Six Flags, doing a similar thing, where you do a workshop and then the kids spend the rest of the day together at the park.
How much time would they spend in the workshops out of the 4 days, would you say?
It would be a full half day. So each ensemble would spend the full morning to lunch period, morning to lunch with a director or an advanced director in these workshops. So they would do a performance and then they would get about 2 hours of a workshop with this director.
All 4 days?
So it's the schedule looks like we fly in on Friday. We get a half day where the students get time with their chaperone to experience the park and eat dinner. And then the second day is a full day in a park. The third day is a half day in the workshop with the director, and then the half day finishing up. The third day there is another full day, and then the last day is our travel day.
Other questions for Emma before we take action on this? Okay, may I have a motion, please, to approve the trip?
I'll make a motion to approve the Disney February 2023 trip.
Second? Moving by Tammy, seconded by Stephen. Any other questions or discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Unanimous. Thanks,
you.
Emma.
Thank you.
Great trip.
Thank you.
Discussion and action, Lebanon High School trip to Greece, April 2023.
Hi, I'm George Hanna. I'm an English teacher at Lebanon High School.
Amanda Valier, I'm a social studies teacher at Lebanon High School.
And we're proposing a trip for April 2023, April 8th through April 15th to Greece. It would involve 2 nights in Athens. Actually, it would first involve an overnight flight, 2 nights in Athens, a night in Naplia, a night in Kalamata, a night in Patra, and then returning to Athens before the flight home. Reason for this trip, we sort of want to create an opportunity for kids to travel. We've selected Greece just because, as an English teacher, the influence of Greek myth on literature, the Odyssey, the tragedies by Sophocles, and then obviously Amanda's a world history AP teacher. We think we're the right people to lead that trip, but it would be open to all students. The cost for the trip, just is in your packet. Sorry, I use paper. I should probably bring my phone. Is $3,755, but with early sign up, it'd be $3,635. This is actually, I mean, we did a little research. It's relatively cheaper than Italy and other parts of Europe. It would involve the flight, accommodations, and 2 meals a day, in addition to a tour manager and a number of enrichment activities. MJ, I heard you ask about numbers earlier. ACIS, we'd be traveling with ACIS, which is a company we've used before. The Iceland trip used it as well. And then Tom LaFleur is going to go through ACIS to go to Italy this April. They basically cover travel for teacher chaperones for every 6 students that are signed up. Obviously, school board policy is 8 students per teacher chaperone. So we're covered up to 16 students. We've lined up 2 other teachers, so we'd actually be covered through 32 students. I guess there's one catch with that is that if we have students, what is it?
Said 17.
Yeah, 9, 10. If we have 9, 10, or 11 students, then Amanda and I will split a cost together. And then if we land on 17 students, we again have to cover some cost, but we're excited to create the opportunity just the same. Any questions?
Questions for Amanda and George? Tammy?
It sounded like you were staying at a lot of different places. Is there logic to all those places rather than 1 or 2 and take in the sights and scenes and really ingest it rather than move around a lot?
That's a great question. Looking through the ACIS catalog, for the most part, there's not one in Greece. Well, the one thing we sort of deferred from is part of our decision was there's a lot of lot of their packages offer, Greece and Italy. And we wanted to make sure we sort of stayed in one country, dealt with just their restrictions for COVID. So it was not an option in their catalog for Greece. So, yeah.
MJ?
Yeah, MJ.
So you said it was open to all students. Is that grades 9 through 12, or is it only an upper class?
Yeah, sorry, grades 9 through 12. Yep, it'd be open for all. Yes.
No?
Oh,
How
sorry.
how many days in Athens total?
It would be 3 nights in Athens. It's a funny thing to do the overnight flight. So we'd arrive, I guess, in Athens early Sunday morning. I believe it would be Sunday night and Monday night. So it would be kind of, you stay up all day on Sunday. Then you'd actually kind of have a refreshed full day on Monday, and then leaving Tuesday morning, and then returning to Athens for the last day. So 2 days, I guess 3 days, but probably 2.5 because we'd be returning on the last day. Yeah.
Can you say the other cities again, please?
Yeah, it's, oh gosh, I actually looked up on YouTube to make sure I was pronouncing these right.
It's okay.
Yeah. So Naplia, Kalamata of Olive fame, and Patra.
So you said it was April 9th to something, right?
Sorry, April 8th through April 15th.
So is that the week before break, or is that the week?
I
of
thought I
break?
checked on the draft calendar, but maybe yeah.
I don't remember. It seems early to me for April break, but I don't have.
For the April break 2023.
I believe it is. I think our February break is back a week, but our April break is the same.
So you anticipate it being April break. So that was the plan.
Intended to be April vacation.
It's intended to be April vacation. Yes, we're not missing school for this. Yeah.
Other questions? Have a motion, please?
I'll make a motion. Make a motion to approve I'm looking for the actual language, sorry. To approve the LHS trip to Greece for April 2023.
Second?
I'll
By
second.
Lillian, second by Stephen. Further questions, comments? Hearing none, all in favor? Unanimous. Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, now, as agreed, when we modified the agenda, we're going to now move to public comment, both in person and via Zoom. Before we do that, though, just to make sure that everyone has the same information, Joanne, could I impose on you to take about a minute and bring us up to date on the DHHS call and the governor's press conference this afternoon?
I will certainly do my best. The information is rather new to me as well, so I'll try to summarize it. There was a DHH call today at 3:30 where there was a conversation that they are no longer recommending universal mask wearing in schools, K through 12. I'm not a physician or medical expert, but my understanding is that is based on the availability of vaccines. The vaccines are supposed to come for 5-year-olds and younger within the next few months. It is based on the number of cases that they are seeing. They mentioned that they do not have a specific metric to be used, and that there are certain things a school district should still keep in place, such as hand sanitizing. They talked a bit about physical distancing, but that it showed it wasn't as important as they originally thought it was. We would still need to wear masks on buses because that's a federal regulation. Individuals would still need to mask after 5 days of isolation when they come back to school or to work. They continue to support doing testing and said that staff and students should not come to school if they have symptoms. If there are clusters or other things that might break out, such as an athletic team, we would contact DHHS to see if that might make sense. They said that this is their recommendation at this time. There's no guarantee in the future that masks may need to be worn again. They underscored the point that masks do work in limiting the transmission between individuals. But at this time, it was all about weighing risks and benefits. And so they put forward that they are no longer recommending, once again, universal mask wearing in schools. I'm not sure if there are other pieces of that I forgot. That's just kind of right off the top of my
The only
head.
other piece, and understanding this is still somewhat in flux, but the WMUR reported that the governor said, just underscoring what you said, Joanne, the governor said that schools can no longer require that masks be worn because that would conflict with the new guidelines. That it might take, so I'm just quoting from the WMUR release,
Yeah, I heard.
that it might take some time for schools to bring their policies into line with the guidelines, and DOE will work with those districts. So just want to get that out there before we go to public comment.
I'll also note that I've been in contact with City Manager Shaw Mulholland, and Sean let me know that the ordinance was specifically written that individual governmental institutions or agencies, of which our school district is, has the ability to make its own decisions outside of the Lebanon City ordinance for masking. So I thought that was a question that might come up this evening and wanted to make sure I got that information to you for consideration.
Okay, thanks. All right, we'll move on to public comment. Public comment is now open. We ask people to restrict their comments to 3 minutes. We'll keep track of that. Please identify yourself by name and by the ward in which you reside. And we'll take comment in turn from the floor and from any Zoom participants.
I'm John Pomeroy at Ward 3. You just stated pretty much everything I was going to say about the masking, obviously, in the last, 2-3 hours. So I would recommend a vote tonight to get Lebanon ahead, because you guys have been using the DHHS as a standard for the last 2 years. That was literally the only reason we were able to do this at all. I know somebody who had said we'd fallen under the town. So since the town has, you just brought that up as well, completely outside the town. You should end this thing. They shouldn't even wear the mask tomorrow. That's my number one. Definitely go to Florida. I had a great time doing that in high school. Never been to Greece. But I had one more crazy thought here was, if y'all don't want to, fall on the sword, or there might be a lot of backlash from teachers or who knows what, make something in writing tonight that says the minute that the town upends the rules, that it doesn't have to go back through the school board again. If the town says tomorrow there's no masking, then there shouldn't be a 4-month wait for the next school board meeting or whatever. That's my piece. Good luck. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Take a comment from Zoom.
I do not see any hands raised, so a public
Okay.
person.
Other comments from the floor? Yes.
Hi, Marie McCormick, Ward 3, parent of a Hanover Street School third grader. And first of all, thank you for sticking with this through the whole pandemic. I've been so impressed with everything, with all the decisions that have been made, with the school staff, and with the experience that we've had as a family in the district. I just wanted to say I was one of the people who wrote in the correspondence folder. One of my points was, please follow public health guidance. So it's strange to have had that so abruptly changed. But I would just say again, my other points were, consider all the policies. I know as a parent, I can't imagine having no masks and yet also having to keep my son home for any sign of a cold. Germs are going to go around more. So that's just something I hope that you'll consider about how to handle that. There will be attendance disruptions, a lot of them. Let's see, the other points were, we've gotten used to this. The kids have gotten used to this. This is a way that we help keep each other safe, and it's a big shift. And so if you can give us any time to get used to the shift and not just say tomorrow, drop the masks, but a little bit of time, whatever is possible. And finally, just again, the school staff, they've been amazing, and they're day in, day out, dealing with such challenging circumstances. So just to please keep them in mind. And I hope for a great rest of the school year. And again, thank you.
Thank you, Marie.
I would like to add, based on Marie's comments, just if there's not clarity, that by not recommending universal mask wearing does not mean it couldn't be optional. So that if a staff member or a student wanted to wear a mask, they could. And I don't think I was very clear about that in the beginning. So I did want to mention that on a voluntary basis, people could continue to wear masks.
Is there any other public comment?
I do
Nobody's
not
put
see
their hand
any
up.
hand
Want to leave
raised.
anybody out of the action item?
Nope, and you guys see it on the screen, and I don't think I'm missing anyone.
All right, hearing and
Okay.
seeing none, public comment period is closed. Now, moving on, discussion and action. COVID protocols. Joanne, you already gave a pretty succinct summation of where we stand. Do you have anything else you want to say to get us started on this?
Yeah, so I haven't had a chance to talk with really anybody about this to process it yet. What goes through my mind are some of the things that they said to continue to keep. So to continue to keep hand washing and sanitizing. And I would really like to have some time to pull together the planning team, because we did such a good job the other times in looking at all the different aspects. Off the top of my head, I think about the middle school and the coordination it took where the gym is used for lunch and the tables are still apart. If there was a quick change to that, I don't think we would have the human power to be moving desks and doing sweeping changes within the next couple of weeks. I would like to talk with the leadership team and say, should we for this year continue to have the gym as the cafeteria? There's no recommendation to do that. Would we want to change that after April break? I think that there would be conversations about certain teachers that want to have the desks back that they had before and the furniture. My instinct is to say, let's just kind of keep the separate desk to get through the school year, but maybe you could do more with less with the physical distancing. So I think that there are some nuances or whatever protocols, practices that we would need to think about. And I would also want some time to speak with the nurses to make sure I'm sending out accurate information, because we did talk about isolation. They did talk about quarantining if a person is not vaccinated. There's little nuances, pieces of it that I want to make sure that if we send a message out, that's just a very clear message. And that I've had people weigh in on things that I might not have thought about, because they are the principals in the building. They have a better standing of, well, what does this mean for this group or that group? They mentioned potentially keeping cohorts. And I think that was more so at a preschool younger level. And I don't want to disrupt all the systems that are in place and those kinds of things, since we're heading into March, April, May, June, a couple months to go. So I would want to talk to the administrators about what makes sense going forward. And once again, I'm processing this out loud with all of you because it was just a couple hours ago that it came through. But that's kind of my mindset, is I really appreciate and value the team approach from the planning teams that we've had over the years. And I would just like to have an opportunity to go back to them and try to think about how best to move forward, depending on however the board votes.
All right, before we move forward to any action on this item, let's continue the discussion. Anyone who wants to make any comments, ask any questions, express points of view, point out things we may not have thought about. We'll start with Tammy.
So Joanne, given all the dynamics that would come with no masks or optional masks, what are you thinking is an appropriate time frame to allow that to happen? I mean, Monday, Monday only gives you 2 days this week. So are you?
I think to do something Monday was an original thought, and then just all the things I just talked to you about, I would not really even have time to pull the planning team together to write a cohesive plan. What this also means for school board members, if you remember the approval of the 5-day back to school plan, the administrative team and I have to rewrite that because that also is all connected, as Tim knows, to the ESSER funding. And whenever you make a change to that plan, you have to rewrite it and you have to submit it to ESSER because it was all one big thing. I'm not at all trying to slow down the process of not having masks or anything like that. I'm just talking out loud about how can we work whatever decision we make together. Wherever we head, that's fine. I just know I need a little bit time to do those pieces well. And, a lot of the administrative team is here this evening. We haven't had a chance to talk. So if I say, well, how about March 7th? I might have one of them telling Joanne, why did you pick March 7th? Like, that's not really a reality for us. Or, if we said February 26th, they're going to say, that gives us 2 days. How are we going to pull this all together? I think we would obviously follow whatever the board directive is. And once again, I'm just talking out loud to make sure that we're all on the same page and our ducks are in a row as far as protocols and things like that. So I think at potentially the earliest, March 7th, if Friday is a snow day, I can probably pull people together Monday or Tuesday, perhaps. But it's really up to what the board decides. I just know we need to think about a plan and, more so importantly, communicate it with parents so we don't confuse people as to what they're supposed to do. I guess that's my bigger piece, is good communication about it.
MJ.
So I was saying,
Sorry.
are you saying that the decision to mask or not mask has to be linked to all of the other protocols? To me, they almost seem like it could be a independent decision, as long as if you say masks are going to be optional, but for right now, we're holding in place eating in the cafeterias and leaving the desks the way they are until I can talk to my planning team. It seems like they almost could be two independent decisions, but from what I'm hearing from you, it sounds like you want them to be dependent decisions.
I remember a part of the conversation and today was a quick mention about making sure that the boards have time to meet and update their policies and procedures. So I don't know if they'll go hand in glove or not. I would think that the board could say, as of this day, we're going to have what I would consider voluntary masking. And Joanne, when you come back on March 23rd, because that's our next board meeting, everything else stays status quo. And that gives you time to talk with your leadership team and to figure out what our 5-day in-school voluntary masking protocol looks like. You could do that. I just don't want our administrators to feel like overnight they have to change everything and communicate everything. It was an incredible effort when people moved from AB to 5 days, and we learned a lot from that. So I just want to give people some time.
And then
Jenica's next.
Well, I agree with MJ that if we can, to me, the moving to optional masks would require less preparation than some of the other ones. So if we think about it as a rolling sort of setting of dates, I think that would make sense.
Lil.
To me, it seems a little more confusing, actually, if we're rolling out protocol changes as opposed to doing protocol changes as a fell swoop. I mean, I think it's going to be confusing to kids to say, we're changing this, but we're not changing all of these things, or we may be changing these other things and we're changing them as of this date. I mean, it just seems like if we're going to have a plan and we're going to have a major set of changes, let's do it in a way that is comprehensive, I guess. And also, I think we do need to acknowledge that although we know that there are people who are children, students who are not in favor of the mask, we also have a lot of kids who are very dependent on the masks 2 years in. I mean, this has been what they've been doing for a long time, and we need to give parents time to transition their own children.
Tammy, you have follow-up?
Thinking of PNN, does this impact any of the MOUs and stuff that we've done?
That was my question.
Well, the MOUs are linked to DHHS recommendations.
Okay.
That's always been off the top.
Okay.
So, and people are part of the planning team. And I talked to the LEA president right after the phone call to just process. I thought that was really important. I'm hearing this.
Right.
And I let her know that we would be pulling a planning team together because I do think that that's important. It was instrumental having all those people with all those ideas and thoughts pulling together our plans for the last couple of years.
Kristen with that, and then MJ.
Sure. Thanks. I just wanted to say I'm not sure if I agree with Lil in terms of doing everything all at once. I probably would be more in line with what Jenica or MJ was saying, that it feels to me that the mask portion, which was identified today, and I have to admit, this is kind of the first I'm hearing about all this stuff from Joanne's report, so I'll read about it later, but feels a little bit separate from the other stuff, the distancing, the cohorting. And I absolutely agree that the schools will need time to adjust and that we should make it clear for the parents, obviously, and the kids, but teacher input, I would like to see what they think and assess that, and as well as maybe we don't have to rush into changing everything overnight, in my opinion, in terms of the desks and the furniture, because that is going to be, that's just material, that's labor, and that's going to take some thinking and planning. But masking is a slightly different issue. I also would like maybe Joanne, if you have time, to give us a quick rundown again, kind of remind us what some of the protocols are, because some of us who don't have kids in elementary school anymore don't really remember exactly what's happening school by school. You don't have to be like super detailed, but I mean, just, or even point me somewhere on the website so I can reread it as you as a team start to reassess what are going to be best practices.
Jack's here tonight. Is Jack here? Yeah. Hey, Jack, would you mind please giving an overview? You do a better job than I would on elementary perspective. Thank you.
Hi, thank you. I'm Jack Finley. I'm the principal at Hanover Street School. So right now, currently, we have, students are masked. We have them down during snack time because you can't really eat with them on. And we have during lunchtime as well. All the times throughout the building, with the exception of PE, where they have identified spaces. If they're in those specific boxes that have been pre-designed, they can have them masks off there. And if they're outside and they can maintain their distance, then they can have masks off outside. But if they can't maintain distance, because we're still maintaining cohorts in K through 3, then they have to be masked there as well. So we're still maintaining to the best of our ability at Hanover Street School with regarding the requirements there. So I can answer any other questions that you have.
I just have a quick question. This is prior to today's announcements, but I know the zones for fourth graders in recess went away a couple of weeks ago. Are you planning to remove the zones for the other students?
We're thinking about doing that, but we sort of piloted it with our fourth grade because we were sort of the last school that was doing that. So I wanted to make sure that we were, I wanted to roll this out in a way that we understood what the ramifications are going to be. We did learn quite a bit from the fourth grade rollout, but it is our smallest class. So we are going to prepare and plan conversations with kids. If we're going to do that, I'm going to be sending that information out to parents in my next newsletter as well. But this may impact what we're going to be doing. I'm not sure yet. I got to read everything that the commissioner had said today.
Right. It seems like what the guidance coming out today would argue that they don't have to wear masks outside or stay in zones outside.
Right. And we make decisions based on all the information that we're getting from everywhere and trying to do the best we can for our kids and in the safety of them and the staff and everyone else.
So Jack, what is your opinion about the timing for taking masks off, given what you've heard?
I mean, I'll prepare to deal with whatever comes down from what we have to work with. It's going to be strange. I will say that. I don't know how the kids are going to react. I will say I have some reservations about staffing, about other parents that have also concerns with their students being in a school that is mask optional. So I don't know if I'm going to be losing students. I don't know if I'm going to be losing staff. I don't know what changes I'm going to have to do. I'm trying to look into the future as best as possible to see what impact it's going to have on the school and operational day. I don't know.
So you would like more time?
Yeah, I would, just to be able to roll it out and prepare students and staff about what's happening, so I can make plans. So if I have, if I know a staff member isn't comfortable being in a school where things are, where there is no mask requirement, then I'm going to have to make a plan to have coverage for instruction for their students. If they tell me that, okay, I'm going to need they'll require a doctor's note and they can't be in school, then I will have to provide some sort of alternative for their students or hire staff. I don't know yet. But I don't know. We haven't said anything to staff yet. It hasn't been a discussion yet. So I don't know. Because I still currently have staff out on long-term leave. So.
Katie, from the elementary perspective, was there anything else that you wanted to come up and add that might be different at Mount Leb, or I just want to make sure you had an opportunity?
Yeah, no, we
Okay. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Jack.
Yes.
Another thing I wrote down was we're also going to have to figure out how we're going to have an information pipeline so that parents are informing the school building if their child should be wearing a mask or not. Because that's something that they didn't really talk about, is if a student comes in and the parent wants them to wear a mask and they were refusing to wear a mask, we're going to be calling the parent to pick them up because the child's not wearing a mask. And so we need to get about 1,600, because we have about 1,600 students, information for 1,600 students if their parents want them to wear a mask or not. And so that's going to take a bit of time to get that information, and to get that information in the hands of the teachers so they know how to best follow up.
Stephen.
I guess hearing that it's much more complicated than just simply taking off the mask, and there are things to work out. I certainly don't see a huge downside to making a decision today to say, let's wait until March 7th, give the administrators, give the whole system time to figure out how to manage all this. I would certainly be in favor of waiting the week.
Ian and John, do you feel like that's enough time? I mean, I just feel like I want to have some ideas what you guys think.
Nobody asked the 1,600 parents where their mask went on, whether they want their kids in the mask. So
Right.
I have to ask them when the mask come off if they want their kids in the mask. That makes no sense.
We're not that. Ian Smith, principal, Lebanon High School. We're under different circumstances, and I think Jack and even John and Katie at the different schools. We're affected at lunch. We're still 6 feet apart. We've been talking about making the lunchroom, putting more students in there, and we think we can do that well. I think probably on Monday we will do that. I think we have a SALT meeting tomorrow where some of this is going to be discussed. We have band and chorus that are still under restrictions. I assume that those might remain in place after masks become optional. I think we could move quicker to having mask optional than perhaps the other schools. And I just talked with Bonnie. I just found out about this also. I don't see a huge transition for us, but I think it would be important for us to do it at the same time as the other schools. We've been doing that all along. I have sent mixed messages. At this late stage doesn't make sense to me, but, can we do it on a Wednesday instead of waiting to March 7th? I think so. Can we do it next Monday? And just have the mask be optional? I'm not sure what you're asking, Lisa. I'm not sure how far down this rabbit hole I want to go. Our kids are ready. Our kids have been great. They really have. I'm seeing a little bit more of this now than I have before, and we're not being quite as vigilant, knowing that the end is coming. Our kids are ready to take their masks off, and I think they'll be used to it very quickly after it happens, not having them. I have no medical experience. That's just my sense of being in schools for a couple of years. We're all ready.
MJ?
So I guess the one piece that would only concern me about having an immediate removal or to mask optional would be the school bus piece. Because as a parent has a child that rides the school bus, I can see that being a little bit of a problem. And I need to do a lot of parent education when they leave the house that you're going to have to wear the mask until you get out the door and onto school property. And so I guess I'm just a little concerned that if the parents don't have time to really prepare their children for that, we're going to set the bus drivers up for a little bit of a problem of having to take extra time to hand out a mask at the bus door every morning as the kids show up without a mask to the bus.
So that piece stays the same.
No, it
Because
stays the same, but it's a mixed message to the kids that you're on the bus and you need to have a mask. And then as soon as you get on school property, you don't have to. So there's definitely, as the one commenter said, you need to have a lot of parent education on that end with the children that are riding the bus.
Okay.
So when's your next meeting? When is your next full?
March 23rd.
It's not till the 23rd.
That's why we're bringing it up.
Joanne, was there timing recommendations in the state discussions today?
Absolutely none.
Sounds about right.
They just said, do it.
Yeah.
Well, they mentioned though that there was going to be leeway because many schools have break. We've already had our break, but many schools are still having break, and they knew that there was going to have to be rollout times, and they mentioned that specifically. So
The leeway was in the timing of school board meetings.
I mean,
I listened to the press conference, so he said it both ways, both.
I think that our students can adjust, and they've been in masks a while, but I think they can shift. And so I would push, at least for going to optional masks, doing it sooner rather than later.
Okay, now I'm going to throw my 2 cents in. I have, as people are in their mind phrasing any motions that they want to make, I just want to express, I have a real problem with the whole notion of optional masking. I have no idea how that's supposed to work. I mean, are we really going to ask our teachers to keep track of the parental preferences for 1,600 kids? I just don't see how that's going to work. I mean, either it seems to me to be a whole lot more reasonable to follow the directive that we've been given, and whatever schedule we pick, be done with the masking. I mean, people have always had the opportunity to wear a mask if they wanted them. I mean, I've seen people riding the subway and flying airplanes for years wearing masks. And if a parent tells their child to do that, I think that's their prerogative. But I think it's really unreasonable to expect teachers or paras or administrators or anyone else to maintain some sort of running list of who's going to be wearing a mask and keeping track of it. I just don't think that's workable. That's one point. The other point is the news today was focused almost exclusively on mask wearing. And the directive is get rid of the masks as soon as you can. There's no option there. As we look at other layers of mitigation that we have, let's keep in mind that rolling them all in together is by its very nature going to take an awfully long time. When we're thinking about how classrooms are configured, we're thinking about cafeteria space, things like this. We have furniture and storage. We don't have people to take stuff out of storage to reconfigure rooms and things like that. So I think just by its nature, this is going to be a staged thing. So I would recommend let's, for now, focus on the masking because that's what the immediate instruction is from DHHS and from DOE and from the governor, and then let Joanne and the SALT team do its job and communicate it as best they can and make a schedule and think about how we deal with the other layers of mitigation.
Yes. Can I ask one quick question? Does the masking impact whatsoever what you were saying about the 5-day plan and the ESSER funding? Is that?
We have to rewrite the plan because wearing masks was part of the 5-day back to school plan.
Okay, but could you explain what you mean when you say we have to resubmit it? Who are you resubmitting it to?
To the DOE.
Okay, and is that going to impact the New Hampshire DOE?
Yep, I have to come back. I have to present it. The board has to approve it.
Okay, and that would be impacting the funding that we're just approving tonight in any way?
It was all wrapped together. And I just really want to be careful that I don't miss a step and people swing back around. And Tim remembers this part where it's like, you have to make sure that you keep your 5-day plan up to date. So I'm mentioning that so the board's not surprised when I meet with the group and we update the plan and I come back and say, between this day today, here's what we've done, and then here's our actual plan. Please approve it, and then we'll submit it to the state. I just don't want to miss that step. Because that was all linked to why we had to do the 5-day back to school plan in the fall. That piece we can definitely do. I would also want the board to consider and make it clear your thoughts, because I think this might come up. A parent who wants their child to be in a classroom where the teacher is masked. A parent who wants their child in a classroom with a teacher who's unmasked, because this is voluntary masking. We cannot start moving students around because a parent feels comfortable with a teacher who's masked and another parent has expressed that they want their child to be in a classroom where a teacher's not masked. And I can see that coming up. There were some conversations about that last year when it came to vaccinations or not vaccinations. And so I think this is a pivotal conversation to have along with masking, so that our principals aren't inundated with emails and requests to have students move to particular teaching classrooms. And I just want to get that up front, because I think that's a possibility that could happen. And it's very time consuming. And if it's a person who wants to wear a mask, then we won't be moving students around to other classrooms.
Tammy.
So to point to your plan, to rewrite it and submit it, it has to come to the board first. Are there going to be, or are there potential repercussions if we implement the no mask before you get the plan to the board and resubmit it?
No, I think the board, speaking for myself at 7:28, learning this at 4:30 or whatever, my understanding is the board can make a decision, and the board could say to myself and the administrative team, please come back with a more thorough plan on how you're going to do all the pieces that you talked about on March 23rd, so we can see how it's all going to lay out. And then you'll approve that. And I actually think that's not a bad thing, because it allows us to go back to a PowerPoint, go back to changes, and do that work. And in the meantime, if the board, whatever decision the board makes, I'll be sending out a community letter Thursday or Friday, letting the community know how the board voted and what our next steps are, so the community isn't confused about what's happening next. Because I think that communication piece is so important.
Will.
Do you feel, Joanne, that giving people, going back to your point about parents requesting one thing or the other, as far as masked teachers or not, or requesting, going back to Dick's point and MJ's point about kids having to mask or not mask based on parents or the bus or those kind of things, do you feel like having additional time will make those requests less frequent, or people feeling pushed to make those kinds of requests by having very little time to make a decision?
I can't speak on behalf of families. My sense from the beginning is families have a certain reason to want to wear masks or not to wear masks, and they're all valid. And I don't think that's going to change if the board goes forward and says, we don't have to do universal masking. I just want to be clear with what the board said. I'm trying to think about things that might come up so that we are on the same page, and I know what work I need to do over the next couple of days with the leadership team and what we need to do over the next month.
And I would just add that many, many other districts in our country have been mask optional for a while. So if we can learn from their experiences, we're not the first ones to do this.
And, I don't want to appear either glib or dismissive of some of these concerns, but, as you meet with the leadership team and start thinking about this, there are going to be some call them accommodations, call them requests, call them what you will, that the district just is not going to be able to accommodate. There are some that are just going to, we just have to say, unfortunately, we can't do that. We can't promise you that your child will only be in a room with a masked or unmasked instructor, or just as an example, there may be things like that. So I hope that as you get down into the details of this, that's recognized, that there's going to have to be a line somewhere. Tammy, did you have another point?
No, I was gonna make a motion.
Can I just make one more question to Joanne? Are we actually required to maintain some kind of a list of parent preference? I mean, that seems like, as Dick was saying, it's kind of above and beyond, the teachers and staff's duty to be able to deal with such an issue.
It's not a requirement, but I will say our administrators and staff have gone above and beyond to make sure they understand the needs of every student. And if you're a parent with an immunocompromised child and you want them to wear a mask, and then they come in and they see their peers and they take it off, I know our staff are going to want to try to support a parent decision. And is it required? No. But above and beyond, they've gone to try to reach out and try to make this as a very negative experience as positive as it can be for everyone. So I'm just thinking about the people that I work with. I'm just thinking about our children getting off the bus. I'm just thinking about the families I've talked to and what that might look like as part of my role, to try to think about, what if a parent says they want to make sure their child's wearing their mask all day? What is the teacher's responsibility for that? And how would we know that? And the only way you would know that is if you asked. So I don't have the specific answer, but I do know I've talked about this with our nurses and leadership team folks as there have been conversations about it. I have no doubt they'll be able to problem solve it. I just wanted to mention it just to get it out front, because then we're going to get emails from lots of people saying, what are you going to do about this? What are you going to do about that? And the more concrete the board can give us guidance tonight, and concrete the board can be about, it's not an administrator's responsibility to move a child because there's a parent request. We need the board support to make this happen and to do this well for our community.
Okay, I'll recognize Tammy for the purpose of making a motion.
Yeah, I'll make the first one, and I suppose it's open to any friendly adjustment, and I'll explain it, my logic, maybe after we second. So I would make a motion that effective March 14th, that the mask mandate for the Lebanon School District be optional, and optional meaning that it is up to the parents if they want their child or student to wear a mask. And in that same optional, that it be, so I would defer all the other mitigating things the school district does to the 23rd discussion. And the reason why I picked the 14th is because it gives 2 weeks for people to prepare, and it gives you a week of having no mask before your next meeting. So you kind of have a little bit of both before your next meeting. And then you can go from there on the 23rd.
Is there a second? Second by Stephen. Discussion.
I think waiting, would it be almost 2.5 weeks after the state of New Hampshire says that we should make masks optional now? To me, that's a long time. And I don't think it takes 2.5 weeks for parents to make a decision about their kids wearing a mask or not.
I don't think it's just the parents. I think it's the school. I mean, I think it's everyone that has to. And the governor was very specific in that he said some districts don't have the release of the mask mandate, and that they will work with them to get it in place. So I don't think that it was a directive that it had to be immediate. I think that I picked the 14th for that reason. I mean, I think it gives you 2 weeks to prepare, to have the conversations with your students, with parents, with kids, with students, everybody. And then it gives you the full a week and a half to have them off before your next meeting.
So that would be actually 3 weeks, right? Because today's the 23rd.
Right.
2 weeks would be the 7th. 14th is 3 weeks, right from tonight.
The 7th is 2.5, right?
I think 2.5 if it goes,
Right.
if the
Yeah,
14th.
okay.
And if you don't, depending on Friday's weather. So we also, you might have a school, you might have, so Yes, I picked the 14th to give you the full 2 weeks and then one full week, week and a half before your next one. But again, I
don't see any other hands raised. So the motion is to discontinue the mask mandate effective the 14th of March. Make the wearing of masks optional at the discretion of parents. Details on that piece, the parental option, and other adjustments to mitigations to be addressed at the board meeting on March 23rd.
and in the meantime, handled by the administration. Yes, as they come up and if they need, but then addressed further at your
Okay,
next.
yep.
Can I ask,
No, I just want to get the motion
Yeah, yeah.
recorded in the minutes.
can I ask a question? Sorry, can I ask a clarifying question? So where's this for both of you, I guess? So you're assuming that then the reopening team or whatever the team is that you're the SALT, whichever team you decide to mobilize is meeting and worked out all the details of all these things in advance of the 23rd, right? Beyond, I mean, the other mitigation issues.
Maybe not completely, but
Right.
at least you'd have your next meeting. I mean, you discuss it at your next meeting. Yeah.
Thanks.
I tend to agree with Jenica that I think 3 weeks is a long time, but I'm interested in moving forward. And so I'm not going to vote no. Okay, any other comments, questions? I will take a vote. Yes. Kristen,
Sorry, just
last
a
minute.
question.
Go ahead. That's all right.
Procedurally, sorry, do we need now to make any kind of addendums to the thing about saying, when it's optional, I don't know, parents can express a wish, but we can't hold.
Right.
I think that might go
Is
beyond,
that in there?
I think that might go beyond the idea of the motion, and that's something that will really have to be worked out by the superintendent and her team. I'm not sure we can incorporate that into the motion.
Okay.
I wouldn't think. I'll defer to the
That's
person
one
who
of the
made the
deferring
motion.
things to, I mean, I defer that to the administration to handle.
Yeah, okay.
And also a friendly, what do you call it? Add-on?
Friendly amendment.
Thank you. We would also be not only doing this for students, but also for staff.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right. Let's take a vote. All in favor of the motion? Eight. Opposed? One. The motion passes. Is there anything else, Joanne, to be addressed in terms of COVID protocols?
No, I appreciate the conversation and I'll be connecting with our planning team and we'll get right on.
All right, we're going to move on then to the other new item that wasn't on the agenda. Item 8D, discussion and action, approval of the acceptance of the $2,406,968.04 from ARP ESSER 3 funding, COVID relief. May I have a motion, please, for the board to, we are approving the acceptance or approving the expenditure, or what is it, Tim?
I make a motion to accept $2.4 million
Okay.
in our ESSER 3.
Okay, so the motion would be to accept, and we can, whoever makes the motion can just read out the public hearing topic, please.
I'll make a motion to accept $2,406,968.04 from ARP ESSER 3 funding related to COVID relief bills passed by Congress.
Thank you. Second.
I'll second.
Okay, motion by MJ, second by Lillian. Discussion. All in favor? And 8 yes, none opposed. I recorded that Lisa stepped out and did not vote. Okay. Moving on, that finishes new business. There is no unfinished business, at least according to the agenda. Moving on to the SAU leadership team updates, superintendent update.
Under school and health and safety matters, we continue to learn and respond to COVID, and we've been monitoring the guidance. Many of us were listening to the DHH conference call today. As far as the renovation projects, I've been in communication with Marinese Architects and Ekman, as have Dana and Tim. There's a discussion about the soil around Mount Leb, and we're working with the geotechnical company to determine foundation structural needs. The bids will be coming in late March. Information for the high school and Hanover Street School renovation project was finalized. So there's information in the annual report. There's information in the Lebanon Times, and there's also going to be mailers to every Lebanon resident. Over February break, I met with Deo Moano, and Deo and his team are reviewing the survey results of the equity survey, and he'll be presenting a summary to the board in April. What we also would like to do are go back to those subgroups who provided information to begin with, so we can say, or he can say, here's the big picture that we're taking from. Do you think we missed anything? I really want to do that and honor and appreciate the input that we received, and then he'll come and give a summary to the board. As far as committee work, F&F, we'll be talking about the Mount Leb project, Seminary Hill, and the track. At PNN, I'll be scheduling a meeting. It came up pretty fast, but in March and April, we are going to be meeting with the Lebanon Secretaries Association and also the Lebanon Administrators Group to do their negotiations this year rather than next year. I attended the EC meeting. I thought that was great conversations yesterday. At the area meeting, I attended at the February 22nd, just the other night at Plainfield Elementary School. Policy, we're meeting tomorrow at 8:30, and communication with board members to keep them up to date on many topics. Otherwise, some of the main things, I've worked over the break on writing the annual evaluations, facilitated the SALT Title IX update. Megan Glynn did join us. I had our monthly Mount Leb principals meeting, and I was able to walk through and talk with the teachers and the students. Conversations with Hanover Street regarding students' issues. Attended a meeting with the city, Tim and Dana, and we talked about plans for Seminary Hill. Correspondence with Tracy Hutchins, Upper Valley Business Alliance, to prepare for Candidates Night. Meeting with Karen Woolsey regarding special education matters and also assisting her with her documentation for New Hampshire certification. Multiple meetings on personnel matters. So posted positions are the Director of Facilities, the LMS Principal, and we'll be creating search committees. I met with Katie Roach to review the MLS Assistant Principal applications. The MLS Assistant Principal interviews will be held Wednesday, March 2nd, with a snow date of March 3rd. I responded to communication from parents about COVID protocols. Communication with LSS President regarding sick bank days. The culture and climate surveys I mentioned before, I created them, I reviewed them with administrators, and they've been sent out to staff. And participated in discussion about use of space. We are already talking about summer programs. So at this point, we think the high school will be at the high school, pre-K-8 will be at the middle school, and Lebanon Rec will use the SAU space because they really like using the outdoor space as well.
Questions for the superintendent? MJ?
I'm kind of curious about the Leb Rec using the SAU space for the outdoor space, but has there been thought like on rainy days, will they be in the gym,
Yeah,
or how is the traffic flow going to work in your parking lot too during all the pickup and drop offs?
Well, those are, the devil's are the details. We'll get that worked out. But on rainy days, there's the theater type stuff in the auditorium and in the gym. There's not room for all of our, there's no better place for it between the Mount Lab program and Hanover Street. Hopefully the renovations, or there's still asbestos stuff going on. So Hanover Street is not an option. So we have to have all of our programs here, and we've had some conversations with the rec, several conversations, and we think it can work. The traffic flow will be a challenge we'll have to overcome, but we have a plan for busing the few students that need to be bused from here to there. You might imagine we have buses going that way anyway.
And so how's that going to affect, because the Leb Rec used to walk the kids over to the summer program, right? The summer school program. So you're going to bus them from SAU over to the middle school now, or?
So Yes, according to Paula, Paula has, and we've had several conversations and the stuff not on the top of my head, but Paula has a number of how many kids needed to make that trip. And we have a stop at the SAU already anyway. So I said, as long as it's not more than one bus, I don't think it's a big deal. So, she's thinking, the specific category I'm thinking of is only like 8 or 10 kids. So I think busing is the least of the issues. I think probably the biggest issue we have is make sure the traffic flow works, which we can do.
I have a question about the UVBA candidates night. Have you been working with Tracy to make that be a webinar format with panelists?
Zoom.
But it's a Zoom, but it's a webinar Zoom as opposed to because we had the problem last year where you could only have 100 people in.
Yeah, and she has another organization that she's using their Zoom or whatever platform that she's using. She's not using ours.
Okay, good, thanks.
Sure.
Is there anything that should interest the board or that we need to know about with regard to the sick bank discussion?
No, as part of the LSS agreement, when there's a sick bank request, I work with the LSS president and I for approval of dates.
Okay. Thank you, Joanne. Tim, business administrator update.
It's the second meeting, so I have nothing except for any questions you might have. So I already gave you January's report and February's still February, so.
It is.
It is.
Yeah, it's only the 23rd. Thank you, Tim. Committee updates. Finance and Facilities will meet next on Thursday, March the 3rd, 4 p.m. in the SAU office. Joanne has already alluded to what's on our agenda. Policy Committee will meet tomorrow, February 24th at 8:30 a.m. at the SAU office. This is a much postponed meeting, and Jenica has graciously agreed to join that committee via Zoom so that we can have the quorum that we need to get those policies moving along. So that's tomorrow.
Thank you.
Education Committee met on Monday, February 21st. Is there anything that should be reported out of that meeting that the rest of the board needs to be aware of?
Yeah, we had a good discussion about enrichment and acceleration, understanding how those sort of efforts are different in our schools and examples we have of each. We talked about possibly having a board goal in terms of supporting all of our students and adding maybe more acceleration or enrichment opportunities, and how that might translate to next year's budget in terms of staffing and trying to make the opportunities equitable between all of our schools.
Thank you. PNN has nothing on their agenda. They met on the 3rd of February. Student Wellness Advisory Committee meets next on May 4th. Harvard Area Career Technical Center meets on March the 8th. Area Committee met last night. I think that was a fairly straightforward meeting. We basically talked about the budget approval and warrant process for the three towns. We all know about Lebanon. We got an update from Grantham and Plainfield. Nothing out of the ordinary going on there. They are like us. This was before the news came out today from DOE and DHHS. They were also talking about getting rid of their mask mandate at some point. So that discussion has sort of been mooted, I guess. We continue to have the superintendents are going to be meeting to talk a little bit about this idea that was floated by the Plainfield board, that there might be ways that we can collaborate in certain areas, particularly around personnel, certain functions that the districts might have that don't justify hiring a full-time person. Might be possible to share share a person, some things along that line. And that's a conversation that's ongoing. Everyone thinks it's a good idea, but is not completely sure just what the needs are, and that's what the next step is. in that process. MJ and Lisa were there. Did I miss anything?
No.
Okay, and Joanne was there too.
And Tim was there too.
Tim, you were so quiet. Let's see, the track fundraising committee has its next meeting to be determined. And there's no updates on that right now. The planning is still ongoing, and there'll be more to report on the in the March meeting. For future agenda items, are there any board member recommendations or questions for addition to future agendas? No? Important dates to be reminded of. The Meet the Candidates Night from the Upper Valley Business Alliance, Thursday, March the 3rd at 6 p.m. That'll be virtual. Election Day is Tuesday, March the 8th. Next school board meeting is Wednesday, March the 23rd. That's after the election. And that's the meeting where I guess we'll have at least one new member will be joining us, and election of officers and so forth. Under other business, board secretary, would you like to do your thing?
Sure. I would like to acknowledge that this is Tammy's last board meeting after many, many years of service to the Lebanon School District, and you will be sorely missed. We thank you for your dedication. You've made us all a better board member with your thoughtful questions and comments and your dedication to PNN, and also to the policy committee. And we'd just like to give you a little card of thanks and enjoy your Wednesday nights watching Netflix instead of the school board.
Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure. I mean, even the contentious conversations that we have and all of that is in its own right a pleasure. I appreciate the thoughtful conversations that we've had throughout the years. Every board member's input is important, no matter how big or how little. And it's been fun. I am glad I did it. I'm looking forward to paying attention just from afar.
Yeah, please don't be a stranger. You know that we want to see you, and start grooming your kids. We'll have the third generation on the board.
My husband maybe.
There you go. Is there any other business? Hearing none, may I have a motion to adjourn, please?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Moved by Lillian,
I'll second.
second by MJ. All in favor? Unanimous. Good night, everyone.
Good night.